And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Tiny Epic Galaxies. Now, Tiny Epic Galaxies is the third in a series of these Tiny Epic games. The first was Tiny Epic Kingdoms, which I thought was a good game, although I couldn't understand why it needed to be tiny. And the second one, Tiny Epic Defenders, I thought was a horrific game. Still wasn't sure why it was tiny. This one was the one I had the highest hopes for. Tiny Epic Galaxies. I like space. Don't really care if it's tiny or not. The epic part has me excited. I hope it's good. Let's find out. Each player has their own little player board, and they're going to start with two ships here, two ships that are on this track, and then on this track that goes around here, you have culture and you have energy. This here is your empire. As this moves up over the course of the game, you will free up more ships, and you will get more points, and you'll have more dice. Let's take a closer look at that real quickly. So you can see that when this moves here, I will now have 1 point, and I will now roll 5 dice per turn, and I still have 2 ships. When I move to the next one, I get another ship. And I have 2 points, still 5 dice per turn, and now I have 3 ships. Then I go up in 6 dice and so on. So this track is kind of one of the features of the game. And the game revolves around dice. Now, what you're going to do on your turn is take a certain number of dice, whatever you're supposed to roll. So let's say it's turn 1. I roll 4 dice. So I've rolled 3 energy symbols and this move symbol. Now, anytime I want, I can re-roll any or all the dice that I've not used. Once I use a die, I place it here in the activation bay to show that it's been used. I can also always place 2 dice in the converter to change another die to whatever side I want. But let's say I place this die here, I can then re-roll these, and then I can try to use these symbols that I've rolled. I can re-roll multiple times, but after the first time, which is free, each time after that you have to pay an energy to roll the dice. Now, what do the dice do? Well, the move one lets you take a ship from your galaxy and send it to another planet out there. Or if it's on a planet, it can move to another planet. You always have to move to a different area. When you move to a planet, there are 2 things you can do. You can land on the planet itself, which will give you the action here. This lets you advance a ship +1. This lets you steal a culture from another player. Enemies have to pay 2 culture to follow this turn. I'll explain it in a minute here. To get a culture. So when you land on a planet, you get the special ability. Or I can start colonizing the planet. I land and I place it face down like that. And that means I'm trying to get this planet. Getting this planet will get me 7 points. Now in the future, I can use the symbol on the planet. On this one, it's diplomacy. On other planets, it might, like this one here, it will be economy. And I'll have to use those symbols. Every time I use one of those symbols, I can advance my ship 1. And you'll notice here, this one also says advance a ship 1. Sometimes special abilities let you do that. Once your ship advances to the beginning, all ships here go back home, and the first person who's there gets it. And then I'll take this planet back to my home mat, where I will place it underneath here like this. This gives me 7 points, this particular planet, but it also gives me another ability. These abilities come into place when someone plays a colonized dice. When I play a colonized dice, I can spend energy or culture, not both, but one or the other, the number I need to move up here on the Empire track. I already mentioned that. Or I can do one of the special abilities that's underneath here. So this lets me advance a ship. So every time I do this, I can advance one of my ships 1. So you can see getting a bunch of these colonies here underneath can give you lots of special abilities that you'll be able to take. And they also will give you different victory points. And so you're trying to get planets for multiple reasons. Once a planet is taken, another one is here. There's always going to be 2 more planets out here than the number of players in the game. And so players are going to be doing this. Now, when I roll a die and take an action, each other player may take the same action if they pay a culture. A culture lets you follow somebody, lets you take the same action that they have just taken. Not the same planets or whatever, but if I roll a move, then they can also take a move. If I roll an energy, they can take an energy. What is energy, you may ask? Energy and culture. Every time you roll one of those symbols and use that die, each planet, you get an energy for each planet that has a ship of your type that's either on the planet or revolving around the planet. And so like if I rolled energy right now at the beginning of the game, I could instantly take 2 energy because I have 2 here on this one. Although some planets give culture instead of energy when you have ships rounding them. And then of course for that you need to use the culture symbol on the die. This will continue on until one player reaches 21 points. Those 21 points will come from points from planets and points here on their main card. When that happens, everyone gets the same amount of turns. Then, at the beginning of the game, each player had been given 2 secret mission cards. And they will pick one of these to keep. And at the end of the game, you will get points also for your secret mission card. So you can look here. For example, this one gives you 3 points if you have the most planets at the end of the game. If you're tied for the most planets, you get 2 points. You add all your points together, and whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. I like to preface my statement by saying I like this game a lot. All right? But first, once again, I have to say, why is it tiny? I know that people say you can fit it in your pocket. Well, I don't know about y'all, but I don't have pockets that are this size. I don't wear cargo shorts all the time. And this size itself isn't actually a bad size for a game. I wouldn't call it tiny. This is small Epic Galaxies, but whatever. What I did have a problem with are these cards. This is the card for your Empire. By the way, there's a whole solo variant for this game, which I didn't play, but if you like solos, there you go. This card here is not the same size as the box. Why not? It should have been almost as big as the box, because moving those tokens all on this card, you have different tracks and things, we were constantly bumping those and moving those. And had the card been the size of this box, I think that would have gone away. That would have been fine. That's my only complaint really about the game. I think the art is fantastic. The design is good. I like how these cards look. I like the pieces, the yellow. It's a little hard to see the symbols on them, but it's not that big of a deal if you need to see the symbols. But it looks good. I just think these cards should have been bigger, and I would not have complained had the whole thing been bigger anyway. But whatever. The game itself is sound. I have not really been a big fan of Scott Alm's games over the past few years. They're just not my style. But this one here hit on all cylinders. I love the idea of rolling dice for actions, re-rolling those dice for action, and paying to re-roll them again. That's a good concept. And using dice for actions is fun, especially when other people can do the same action. The following action, which was made popular in the game Glory to Rome, comes here, but here it's very simple. Players can all do it. If there's a complaint, you go in clockwise order. And then I like sending the ships out. That was my favorite part of the game, is when I send a ship out, do I take the special action or do I put it in orbit around a planet to start trying to take that planet over? I mean, some planets are 1 point, others are 7. It seems very odd to have that wide range, but once you play the game, you can say, oh, I get that 1 point planet, which will give me another quick special ability. And the more of those colonies you have, the more your colony die space is really useful. You roll that at first, you're like, yeah, I need to upgrade my empire and get more dice and more ships. And you want to upgrade as soon as you can. And should you upgrade all the way to the top? Well, that's a lot of resources to do that. And while you're doing that, other players will be getting these planets. So you want to use those colonized dice when all those colonies give you special actions. And so as time goes by, I eventually feel like I have my own unique spacefaring civilization with special abilities that other people don't have. And there's a decent number of cards and planets in the box, so I feel like each game is different. The game is a perfect length too. We're talking 30 minutes. I really like how it flows. You're watching on someone else's turn. You're interested because you may follow one of the actions that they do. And if you build your culture up, you can be playing all the time on other people's turns. And so I don't know. I don't know why this one hit me so much more strongly than the other two. Kingdoms was fine, Defenders not so good, but I think, one, the theme here is much more realized. But two, I think the game here, it's much more involved. There's a lot of direct player interaction, which I find good. There's a bit of a race sometimes for the different planets, and you feel differentiated from the other players as you go back and forth. This is a solid game, by far the best in the series. And even if you did not like the first two, I would ignore that and get this one anyway. If you like the first two, then I think everyone should try this, really. It's an excellent game. Go, stop the video, go play it now. Tiny Epic Galaxies. Dice Tower Judgment, excellent!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at coolstuffinc.com.
For Asgard, shut the door.